I think they're recognizing that they've made a blunder, right? Worse than a mistake, it's a blunder. That's the quote. People say it's Talleyrand. I don't know. Maybe it was not Talleyrand. This is one of these things that's misattributed on the internet by a lot of people. But it's a good phrase anyway. Worse than a mistake, it's a blunder. I think that the Democrats are having a little moment here where they're saying the plan is not going according to plan. I see on CNN.com, and this is about Trump and the legal assaults and the 14th Amendment gambit, all this stuff that they're trying. It's not working. It's not working. And for anyone who tells me, and I see the messages, people saying they're playing right. You're playing right into the Democrats' hands. I talked to you about the Trump trap. I know that's a theory, that's a possibility. But as I look at these numbers, to me, it just seems like the other side has miscalculated right now. Uh, you're telling me they're running Biden's numbers to all-time lows. I think he just went up most recently in overall approval a point or two this week from where he had been, but still very, very low approval ratings. And their plan, I think, is what we're seeing, and the plan is not yet working. There's the very real possibility that Trump is going to invade conviction in all four of those trials. And we shall see. Maybe not. I don't know. There's so many variables here. But let me tell you this: CNN.com has a piece up by one of their writers, and the guy hates Trump. Okay, which is not a surprise. If you're going to write on CNN.com these days, you got to be a Trump hater. But here is just one, and I'll give him credit. He's a very left wing guy. I'm going to read Damon Linker. He is a fellow at the Open Society Project. I mean, he's a left wing guy. Okay. But my point here is this is his so what about the Trump 14th Amendment thing. The best outcome, he writes, of this episode would be for the U.S. Supreme Court to strike down the Colorado ruling swiftly and unambiguously, making clear that for now, no state will be permitted to disqualify Trump from seeking or holding the office of the presidency. Trump and his populist style of politics can't be defeated by lawyers and judges. They can only be beaten at the ballot box. End quote. I think that some of the libs are saying this now because not that they want to play fair. I think they realize, as I said, it's worse than a mistake. It's a blunder. What they've done here, the 4 indictments and now the 14th Amendment thing in Colorado. I get that it's early. Some of you, I'm sure, are World War I history buffs, right? I mean, I find World War I fascinating, horrifying, terrifying, but fascinating period of history. I feel like World War II gets, in part because there's more video footage. Also, well, there's a lot of reasons why. 60 million dead and the death camps and the Nazism and all. But World War II on like the History Channel gets a lot more focus than World War I. That's all I'm trying to say. There's World War II is something that there's more movies about it. There's just more. It's more in our minds. It shaped the modern world even more. But World War I and World War II are really two things that go very much together. In some ways, you could argue, I think it's all really one very intertwined period of history. And in World War I, the Germans had and if you've ever listened to the Hardcore History podcast on this by Dan Carlin, it's excellent. I mean, I think his World War I podcast is his best of the history podcasts. The Mongol one's pretty good too. But the World War I, you talk about the Vonschen Plan, right? And the Vonschen Plan was a German military strategist, Alfred von Schlieffen. You have to say his name like that. And you have to imagine a guy with like the helmet that has the little spike on top, with a big mustache. All those guys had big, bushy mustaches. You ever notice that? Male facial hair fashion changes and is its own contagion. Like everyone, I've said in this country, everyone became bearded. I've actually gone unbearded, as you know, recently. But everyone in America, all the guys, not everybody, but beards have become the thing. I think we're going to enter the mustache era next. I'm just saying. Magnum PI, Tom Selleck, it's all going to make a comeback. But von Schlieffen had this very intricate plan to go around and effectively defeat the Allies. And as you know, it was incredibly precise, right? The movement of men, materiel, munitions, everything, incredibly precise plan to end the war very rapidly. and it was adjusted a little bit by Moltke, another German military strategist, and so now historians can debate, well, Moltke didn't use enough men, and so that was the problem. The Schlieffen Plan in World War One perhaps would have worked. And understand that Schlieffen, as also a military historian of sorts, he wanted to do the double envelopment, which I've talked to you about before. The Roman Second Punic War, uh, Hannibal defeats the Romans at Cannae, 60,000 roughly dead, annihilates the army by a double envelopment, meaning completely surrounded on all sides, and then just the slaughter machinery finishes off its work. That was effectively, with now guns, cannons, artillery pieces, what Schlieffen was trying to do to the French, right? Just end the whole thing before anyone else can get in the war. I bring up the Schlieffen Plan, one, because saying some of these German words is, it's always a challenge, right? Like Entscheidungsschlacht. Entscheidungsschlacht, that's a decisive battle. I'm not even sure I'm saying that one correctly. I took 2 years of German in school. Fun fact. 2 years of German. Ich weiß Buck. Took German, I took French, I took Arabic. Speak basic. I can order off a French menu. That's about as much as I can do. I'm good with the steak frite. But the Schlieffen Plan didn't work. And then what happened? Trench warfare. I think that the legal assault on Trump and the 14th Amendment thing, I think this was the Democrats' Schlieffen Plan. I think they really believed that they could still have Joe Biden win because they were going to get convictions of Trump. He would be a convicted felon. And then the backup plan, or a part of the plan as well, is this now taking him off the ballot, but that effectively the legal abuse would deliver them the win that they want so badly in 2024. And I think their Schlieffen Plan is going to turn into political trench warfare, just like in World War One, right? We dug in, they dug in. Well, actually, the British, the French, they dug in, the Germans dug in. I think we're heading into political trench warfare. That's the sense that I have right now. That their plan, I don't think that there's some other brilliant maneuver that they have. I think the Democrats tried their Schlieffen Plan and they have failed against Trump. That's the sense that I have right now. I think they're waking up to that too. Maybe there's some part of this that I don't see. Maybe there's a breakthrough. They get a conviction in New York. They get a conviction in D.C., and that changes the whole game. I think they're still holding out hope for that. But in the meantime, there is a growing recognition that they got at least a real probability, a really high possibility that they've got a problem with the strategy for 2024. I don't think they're that clever that this is what they had in mind. That doesn't mean they can't still pull it out. And remember, trench warfare, I'm not saying who has the advantage in that. In some ways, because of their ballot chase operations and their ballot harvesting and their early voting and the mail-in balloting, and trench warfare is going to be tough for our side too. But that's where I think we're heading. I'm moving away from the grand sweeping maneuver that will just, and this also, in my mind, this means, we're not going to get a Michelle Obama DNC unity candidate thing. We're not going to get Gavin Newsom, getting, parachuted in at the last minute to take over. And I don't think, and I could be wrong on this too. And I always am honest with you about that, because I think it's so easy. People say, "Oh, this is going to happen," or "that is going to happen." People are wrong all the time. Something could happen in the Republican primary, but I think that, at this point, come on, it would have to be a total shock, right? And so that's why those huge surprise maneuvers that at least were planned, we could still have some massive surprise next year. But I'm talking about, again, the Democrat Schlieffen Plan. I'm talking about their strategy to be able to keep a Biden-Harris ticket in office. And remember, Biden or Harris, I've always said it could be, Biden or Harris, it could be either one of them. To me, that's the same. That's the status quo. Do you see this my way? Do you think I'm right? Is this the Democrat Schlieffen Plan? And therefore now we're going into trench warfare. That their initial The initial onslaught of court cases and everything else. Now, some of you may say, "Well, Buck, we don't know. Maybe he's still we can't know because he's not going to be found, or he has not yet been found guilty in any of these trials. We're not sure if any of these trials can happen." That's all true, but I think there's the very real possibility that it's not going to happen, meaning he won't be convicted, and or maybe the trials don't even occur in time. Um, and I'm not even sure if they do, even if he is convicted, that that would change the race the way the Democrats thought that it would. So having a little World War I history analogy time here. You can agree, disagree.